Hello again to another Agricolor React. Today we'll be watching. Well, okay, you do that.
Why no one wants to live in Europe's richest country.
From?
This is from Explained with Dom.
Oh yeah, it is what you do. And guess what the country is?
Europe's richest country?
Mm-hmm.
Germany.
Okay,
But there's no coast there, is there?
There is a coast.
In Germany?
There's all things there. Baltic Sea and North Sea.
Yeah.
Okay, it's just gained it.
American education.
For centuries, Ireland was always one of the poorest countries in Europe. But then something happened and the Irish economy exploded. And today, Ireland is one of the wealthiest nations in the world, richer than countries like Switzerland, Qatar, or Kuwait.
Really?
By all accounts, Ireland is doing amazing. Except that not everyone in Ireland seems to agree. In fact, 70% of young people are considering leaving the country, and mainly because of the economic situation. But how is that possible? Why should citizens of one of the wealthiest countries be so unhappy with the economy? Well, not everything about Ireland's economic success is how it seems. The reality looks a lot less pretty than from the outside. And once you dig beneath the surface, the Irish success story starts to fall apart pretty quickly. This is the dark side of Ireland's economic miracle. But Ireland is not the only country that's been through some tough times. Even people in the most developed economies have been hit pretty hard. But at times like these, smart investors aren't hiding their money in savings accounts, and wealthy people are pouring hundreds of millions into assets that have the potential to still climb, even when stocks fall. And that's why this video is sponsored by a platform dealing in these same assets, Masterworks. Masterworks is an art investing platform that I've mentioned before in the past months, a platform that has sold over $45 million worth of assets and distributed the net proceeds to their investors. And their results have actually gotten better over time. At this point, they have 13 exits, with each returning a profit to their users. Masterworks has done so well that they even made a waitlist, as paintings can sell out in minutes. But you can get a priority access right now if you just click the link below. And now, let's get to the video.
What's that?
But to understand, first a little bit of context behind how did we get here.
Part of a painting?
Basically, for most of its history, Ireland had exactly the opposite reputation that it has today. Both as part of the UK and after it became independent, it was a poor country, with mostly an agrarian and underdeveloped economy, dependent on trade with the UK, and with a strong tradition of people trying to escape poverty by leaving the country, which wasn't helping the economy either. And it didn't get much better as time went on. In the late 1980s, Ireland was still one of the poorest Western European countries, but then it finally found its secret sauce. By then, Ireland was a member of the EU, a bloc of countries sharing one single market, where as a company, you can sell to all the member states, but you only have to pay taxes in one of them. And Ireland made a bet that this is the best way to turn their economy around, to become a hub where all the foreign companies coming to do business in the EU will have their official residence and allow Ireland to collect a small portion of their European-wide profits. To do that, it introduced a combination of low taxes and economic subsidies, and soon after, the bet started to pay off. Major US companies like Dell, Microsoft, and others started choosing Ireland as their official European residence, not because it would be an important market, but because they saved a lot of money on taxes. And the taxes that Ireland was able to collect launched a boom that the Irish economy has never seen before. In the 1990s and 2000s, it was growing just as fast as economies like Singapore or South Korea, and so it became known as
How long? You already seen that we've stayed in the hotel across the street from
it.
Really? I've never noticed it.
Economic crisis, and the Irish response was to double down on this strategy. Low taxes became almost zero taxes, and Ireland basically became a global tax haven. It wasn't just a European HQ anymore. The conditions were so good that many US companies started taxing their entire global profits in Ireland, where they paid next to nothing, and Ireland still got a very small slice of a gigantic pie. And it emerged from the crisis as a Celtic phoenix, growing faster than ever before and outperforming virtually everyone. Unlike for most of its history, Ireland's population was now growing as people didn't leave anymore, but instead, many highly paid tech workers were arriving to work for the big tech. and Ireland enjoyed its reputation as the new European Silicon Valley and an economic miracle. But here comes the paradox. If it's doing so well, then why do so many people want to leave? Well, while the whole Irish success story looks amazing on the surface, at a closer look, it starts to unravel pretty quickly. So here's what's going on. Last year, a survey showed that 7 out of 10 Irish people between 18 to 24 are considering permanently leaving the country because they are not happy with the quality of life. A big reason is that for a few years now, Ireland has been dealing with a notoriously bad housing crisis. And while it is not alone in that, the Irish situation is especially bad. The thing is that Ireland has a particularly bad combination of government policies. It makes it very hard for developers to build any kind of dense urban housing, and it makes it very easy for anyone to object and stop it from being built. As a result, Ireland has a critical shortage of housing, which naturally means that housing is either unaffordable or completely inaccessible for most people. A year ago, only 851 rental properties were listed in the entire country of 5.1 million people, resulting in bizarre scenes like this one when hundreds of people queued on the street in Dublin, trying to get a viewing of an apartment available for rent. But despite the fact that the housing crisis has been going on for several years by now, and despite numerous protests and promises, the government has not really been able to do anything about it. But housing is really just one example of a wider problem, and that's the fact that Ireland is in many ways a surprisingly badly managed country that's failing at building basic infrastructure and managing key public services. For years, Ireland has struggled to build roads and energy infrastructure, and its national healthcare system is in a perpetual crisis, as it is constantly massively overcrowded, underfunded, and its doctors are running away to other English-speaking countries. Now, of course, Ireland is not the only country struggling with these issues, but it's just a very surprising contrast between Ireland's economic record and a glowing reputation and the reality on the ground. So how come that Ireland has such a fantastic record on paper, but the reality doesn't seem to live up to it? Well, the explanation of this paradox might be that Ireland is not actually really that wealthy at all, and the whole Irish miracle is not actually real. So, let's explain. Obviously, Ireland has an extremely high GDP per capita, which is by far the most commonly used indicator for how a country is doing economically. And looking at that number only, it really does seem like the Irish economy is miles ahead of everyone else. Except that if we look at different statistics, things start to pretty quickly look kinda off. For example, it has quite a high average salary, but it's not nearly as high as it should be, considering its GDP. The Irish average salary is lower than in most Scandinavian countries, and similar to an average salary in countries like Netherlands, Belgium, or Austria. Except that the GDP per capita of these countries is barely half that of Ireland's, and other statistics show a similar trend. The household disposable income, which is measuring basically how much money do people actually have at their disposal, puts Ireland on the 17th place, below the average of the European Union. In other words, there is a big gap between data showing how wealthy Ireland is and how wealthy the people actually are. But why? Well, according to a theory, widely recognized by many economists as accurate, but furiously disputed by the Irish government, Ireland is nowhere near as rich as it seems to be on paper, and the Irish GDP statistics are massively inflated, to such an extent that they do not actually reflect reality. And that's because Ireland's GDP is driven mostly by global corporations moving their profits to Ireland. Profits that were not made in Ireland by companies that are not Irish and that are taken out of the country without actually ever entering the Irish economy. This has been called leprechaun economics, an economy where the country's GDP says absolutely nothing about how wealthy the country actually is, or isn't. And in reality, Ireland could be hardly called a wealthy country. Instead, the result of Ireland's particular economic model could be called a tale of two Irelands, one rich and one poor. Although it might seem like it from the GDP statistics, the average Irish person doesn't work as a software developer for Google. These companies only employ a tiny fraction of the Irish workforce, and instead, they rely on highly qualified workers that came to Ireland from abroad. These highly paid workers help to inflate the prices, but most people work in the domestic Irish economy that has nothing to do with the big tech, and they make way less money. But while the rich Ireland gets the attention, the poor Ireland, which is mostly out of sight, is what actually portrays the daily reality of most people. And the magical accounting also hides a lot of flaws in the Irish economy that would be otherwise immediately visible, and that are, well, concerning. Ireland, for example, has one of the highest national debts in the world. But because a national debt is usually reported in relation to a country's GDP, and because Ireland has an insanely high GDP, this goes unnoticed. So on the surface, it looks like Ireland is managing it really well, but put the GDP aside, and suddenly you'll see that it's not good at all. The economist Aaron Levinstein once said that statistics are like bikinis. What they reveal is suggestive, but what they conceal is vital. And while so far Ireland has been able to conceal the true nature of its so-called economic miracle, it might not last much longer. The fight against tax havens is picking up, and its days of collecting taxes from foreign giants might be soon over. And if that happens, the reality will be revealed, and what's gonna follow is not going to be pretty.
I don't see a country as being rich if they have a debt. Like the United States,
But-
last I heard, they had $2 trillion in debt.
I don't think there is any country that doesn't have a debt.
Well, the United States used to have a surplus of money.
When?
Who was it?
Reagan? That was 80s. That didn't happen then. Must
Carter?
have been Carter? That I don't think so either. Carter was supposed to be
There was a time where we weren't in debt at all. There
before
was a-
Second War or shortly after
It
Second
was after
War
Second
when you were
War.
actually.
It was after the
Yes,
Second War.
probably just after Second War when Americans were helping all Europe and other countries around the world to just rebuild, because America was the country that was taking part in Second War, but they didn't have had barely any losses.
Yeah.
As in, the
Infrastructure.
only American land that was attacked during Second War was Hawaii, isn't it?
Yep.
So that was the only place that you had to rebuild. Or like Europe had to rebuild like what, half of the place. So we were just sending those money to Germany, sending money to France, sending money to UK. UK was very destroyed as well. So
Yeah. I mean, if the United States cut military spending and put it towards the deficit. You know,
oh yeah, the military spending in America is just. Phew.
I mean,
People were. I keep when I hear that about military spending, I always coming up with this one moment, that one thing that basically someone pointed out that someone was giving out about. Remember what this mission that they were putting lander on Mars?
Yep.
NASA was putting lander on Mars, and rover, sorry, and that cost like $1 billion or something like that.
I fell off a cliff.
No, it didn't fall off the cliff, but they just spent $1 billion. So someone was saying they should spend $1 billion on something else, blah blah blah. Yeah.
Actually, space is very good. You know, spend less on military, more on space, because there's
It
What,
would be, yeah, but
an
the
asteroid
whole
coming that could hit Earth,
yeah, who could, but,
and they're trying to
but-
deflect it.
yeah, but
So-
the thing is that someone said that amount of money that NASA gets as funding is 0.0 something of what American Army gets,
Yeah.
military gets. So that's barely nothing, and that was $1 billion going towards the rover. And so how much did the American military get? Trillions. So it's like, yeah, if they just cut that down, yeah,
I
it would
mean,
be different.
Sell a plane, give it to schools. You
Yeah,
know.
but anyway, if it comes about Ireland, I watched something else before explaining that basically that's what he said here too, that it's GDP should be counted differently. Because GDP says, oh, Ireland have 104,000 per capita, so as in, technically it would be like 104,000 euro goes into us, to me, and another 104 to you, yeah? That's not happening, obviously.
No.
I know it doesn't work like that. But the thing is as well that all that is counted, including all those multinational corporations like Google, Facebook, Apple, all those companies that they don't really do anything here. They just have bases, but they log their income in Europe or even like the rest of the world and stuff like as made in Ireland when it's not. So it's like if it's something sold in I don't know, Poland or something like that, it's counted that was sold from Ireland. Or something like that. I can't know exactly.
I get you.
Yeah, you have to watch that reaction. You could know better. I should put the thing there. in the corner, somewhere here or something like that. Yeah.
Watch it here.
Yeah.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah. So you watch this and then you can watch that one. Okay. Anything else?
Not that I can think of.
Okay. Let's just. Thank you very much for watching. I see you tomorrow. I see Eric next week. And if I'm not mistaken, we'll be watching Cats. So it'll be something more lighthearted.
Ah, nice.
Alright. Bye.
Bye.